Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real simple and real clear. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they keep waking up as the same person every single day and expecting a different life. You don't need 7 years to change. You don't need a miracle. Sometimes you just need 7 focused days where you stop lying to yourself. See, becoming unrecognizable doesn't mean you change your face. It means you change your standards. For the next 7 days, you decide that excuses are no longer acceptable. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop saying tomorrow, like tomorrow owes you something. Tomorrow ain't promised to nobody. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about one powerful truth. Identity does not change with time. It changes with decisions. Most people think becoming a new version of themselves takes years, but that's a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. The truth is, the moment you decide who you are no longer willing to be, everything starts to shift. Your life doesn't move first, your decisions do. And that decision has to be firm, emotional, not temporary, not based on how you feel today. It has to be rooted in what you are tired of tolerating. See, every single day you wake up, you are voting for the person you are becoming. Your habits cast those votes. Your excuses cast those votes too. If you keep choosing comfort, procrastination, and fear, you are deciding to stay the same person. Nobody is forcing you. You are choosing it. And once you understand that, you also understand this. You have the power to choose differently starting right now. People say, I'll change when things calm down. Life don't calm down. People say, I'll start when I'm ready. You will never feel ready. Readiness is a myth. Progress starts when you decide that staying the same hurts more than changing. That's when transformation begins, not when it's easy, not when you feel motivated, but when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired. When you make a real decision, your behavior follows. You stop asking for permission. You stop explaining yourself. You stop negotiating with your weaknesses. A real decision sounds like this. No matter what happens, I'm doing this. Not, I'll try. Try is a backup plan. Successful people don't build their lives on backup plans. They build them on commitment. Let me tell you something important. Your old self will fight back. That version of you is comfortable. It knows your patterns. It knows how to talk you out of effort. It will remind you of past failures. It will whisper, you've tried this before. But here's the difference. Before, you were hoping. Now you are deciding. Hope is emotional. Decisions are final. Once you decide, your environment starts to expose itself. Some people won't like the new boundaries you set. Some people benefited from you staying small. That's okay. Growth requires separation. Not everyone can go where you're going. You don't owe anyone the old version of yourself. Decision also changes how you see time. You stop wasting it. You stop scrolling your dreams away. You stop spending hours on distractions and minutes on purpose. You realize that every minute you waste is a minute you can't get back. Time is the one thing life will never refund. And listen closely. Consistency becomes easier once the decision is made. When there's no debate in your mind, action becomes automatic. You don't wake up asking, should I do this today? You already decided. That's why successful people look disciplined. They're not fighting themselves every morning. They settled the argument a long time ago. Most people are exhausted not because they're working too hard, but because they're constantly battling indecision. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, one in change but still attached to comfort. That internal conflict drains you. A clear decision gives you peace, even when the work is hard. So if you want to become unrecognizable, it doesn't start with a plan, a routine, or a motivational speech. It starts with a decision so strong that your actions have no choice but to follow. Decide who you are becoming, decide what you will no longer accept, and decide that excuses no longer have a seat at the table. When that decision is made, everything else begins to line up, not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. People think discipline means suffering, struggle, and misery, but what it really means is you finally decided that your future deserves more respect than your present feelings. Feelings change every 5 minutes. Your future doesn't get that luxury. You wake up some mornings and you don't feel like doing anything. Welcome to being human. The problem is you don't feel motivated. The problem is you keep letting your feelings run your life. If feelings were reliable, everybody would be successful, but they're not. Discipline is what shows up when motivation doesn't. Discipline is what carries you when excitement disappears. For 7 days, discipline can reset your self-image. When you do what you said you were going to do, something powerful happens inside you. You start trusting yourself again. Most people don't lack confidence, they lack self-trust. They've broken so many promises to themselves that deep down they don't believe their own words anymore. Discipline repairs that relationship. Every small discipline action sends a message to your brain. I am a person who follows through. Wake up when the alarm rings. Finish the task you started. Say no when you should say no. Those small wins stack up fast. And once they stack up, your identity starts to shift. You don't feel like the same person anymore because you're not behaving like the same person. Discipline also exposes excuses for what they really are. Fear in disguise. Fear of failing. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of discovering your true potential. Because if you really tried and really committed, you wouldn't be able to hide anymore. Discipline removes hide-in places. It puts you face to face with who you could become. Let me tell you something else. Discipline simplifies life. When you are disciplined, you don't debate with yourself all day. You don't waste energy deciding whether to work, train, study, or improve. You already decided. That decision saves you mental energy, and that energy can now be used to build, create, and grow. People think freedom comes from doing whatever you want. That's another lie. Real freedom comes from discipline. When you're disciplined with your time, your money, your health, and your habits, life opens up. You're no longer trapped by regret, stress, or last-minute panic. You're in control. For 7 days, discipline might feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is not danger. Your mind will tell you to stop. Your body will complain. Your old habits will beg for attention. But none of that means you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different. Growth always feels unfamiliar at first. And here's the secret most people miss. Discipline builds momentum. The first day is the hardest. The second day is uncomfortable. By the third and fourth day, something shifts. You start moving automatically. You start feeling stronger. By the 7th day, you look back and realize you did things you once thought were impossible. At that point, you become dangerous, not to others, but to your old limits. You stop seeing yourself as weak, lazy, or inconsistent. You see proof. Proof beats motivation every time. Proof changes your self-image permanently. So if you want to become unrecognizable, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for motivation. Choose discipline for 7 days. Just 7. Because when you prove to yourself that you can do hard things without quitting, you don't go back. You can't unsee that version of yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that will change how you look at your life. What you consume mentally is shaping who you are becoming. Whether you realize it or not, your mind is a factory, and every single thought you allow inside is raw material. If you keep feeding it negativity, fear, gossip, and doubt, don't be shocked when your life starts producing the same thing. Most people are exhausted not because life is hard, but because their minds are crowded. Crowded with opinions that don't matter, problems they can't control, and information that adds no value. From the moment you wake up, you're consuming something. Social media, news, conversations, music videos, all of it is programming you. The question is not if you're being influenced. The question is by what? See, your mind believes what you tell it repeatedly. If you keep listening to people who complain, your mind learns how to complain. If you keep watching things that promote fear, your mind learns how to panic. If you keep replaying your past failures, your mind learns how to quit before you even start. Your life follows the strongest voice in your head. For 7 days, if you want to become unrecognizable, you have to clean up your mental diet. You can't expect a strong future with a weak mindset. You can't expect confidence while constantly consuming doubt. You can't expect clarity while surrounding yourself with noise. Let me say this clearly. Not everything deserves your attention. Attention is expensive. Whatever you give it to will grow. That's why successful people are selective. They don't watch everything. They don't listen to everyone. They don't engage in every conversation. They understand that protecting the mind is protecting the future. Some of you need to stop replaying old conversations in your head. That argument from years ago, that failure from the past, that moment you didn't show up the way you wanted to, it's over. But you keep reopening the wound every day. Your mind cannot move forward while you keep dragging yesterday into today. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits. And your habits become your life. That change starts with what you allow into your mind. Change the input. And the output has no choice but to change. For 7 days, feed your mind with things that stretch you. Words that challenge you. Ideas that scare you a little. Messages that remind you who you could become. You don't need motivation all day, but you do need alignment. Your mind has to be aligned with where you're trying to go. And listen, this also means limiting access to negativity, even when it comes from people you love. Some folks don't mean harm, but they speak from fear. They remind you of risks instead of possibilities. They'll talk about why it won't work instead of how it might. You have to decide whose voice matters in this season. Your environment speaks. Your music speaks. Your conversations speak. And your mind is always listening. Even when you think you're just passing time, your brain is learning something. That's why time wasting is dangerous. It doesn't just steal hours, it rewires your focus. Once you start controlling what you consume, something powerful happens. Your thoughts slow down, your confidence grows, your vision becomes clearer. You start hearing your own voice again instead of everyone else's. That's when creativity returns. That's when discipline gets easier. That's when belief starts to feel natural. Most people don't need a new strategy. They need a new mental environment. You can't grow in soil filled with poison. You can't expect peace in a mind that lives on chaos. Clean the mind, and the life begins to clean itself. And here's the truth most people miss: your mind is always looking for evidence. If you keep feeding it stories of failure, it will find proof that you can't win. But if you feed it stories of growth, resilience, and possibility, it will start finding proof that you can succeed. Same mind, different fuel. So for 7 days, be intentional, be selective, be disciplined with what you watch, what you listen to, and what you replay in your head. Because when your mind changes, your standards change. And when your standards change, your life can never stay the same. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down for you in a way that's simple and real. Your daily habits are quietly building the life you are living right now. Not your dreams, not your intentions, not what you say you want. What you repeatedly do every single day is voting for the future version of you. And the reason many people feel stuck is because their habits are perfectly designed to keep them exactly where they are. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become successful or unsuccessful. It happens slowly through small actions that seem harmless at the time. Hitting snooze one more time, skipping the workout again, putting off that important task, telling yourself it won't matter today. But those small choices add up, and eventually they introduce you to a life you didn't plan but accidentally created. Here's the hard truth: your habits don't lie. They tell the truth about your priorities. If you say you want change, but your habits stay the same, then change is just something you like to talk about. Habits reveal who you really are, not who you hope to be. For 7 days, habits can either expose your weakness or unlock your potential. The same routine that keeps you tired, distracted, and frustrated can be replaced with actions that build strength, clarity, and confidence. But it starts with awareness. You can't change what you refuse to examine. Most people try to change their lives by doing something big once in a while. That never works. Transformation comes from doing small, boring, unexciting things consistently. There's nothing glamorous about discipline, repetition, and routine. But those are the exact things that separate winners from wishers. Let me tell you something important. Habits shape your identity. When you act like a disciplined person, you start to see yourself as disciplined. When you act like a focused person, you begin to feel focused. You don't become confidently and then act confidently. You act confidently and confidence follows. Your habits also control your energy. The food you eat, the sleep you get, the movement you avoid or embrace, all of it affects how you show up in life. A tired body creates a tired mind. A distracted routine creates a distracted future. You cannot expect high performance from low standards. And listen, habits don't care about motivation. They don't wait for the perfect mood. That's their power. Once a habit is formed, it runs automatically. That's why bad habits are so dangerous and good habits are so valuable. Both work even when you're not paying attention. For 7 days, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. You need to win the day, just the day. Wake up with intention. Do the hard thing early. Keep one promise to yourself. Then do it again tomorrow. Momentum loves simplicity. Most people quit too early because they're waiting to feel different before they act different. That's backwards. Action creates belief, not the other way around. When you see yourself showing up daily, even in small ways, your self-image begins to change. And once your self-image changes, your habits become easier to maintain. So understand this: your future is hidden in your daily routine. If you don't like where you're headed, change what you do today, not next year. Today. Because habits don't just shape your days, they shape your destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real right now. If you want to become unrecognizable in 7 days, the fastest way is to change how you talk to yourself. Most people don't fail because they lack talent, money, or opportunity. They fail because of the conversation happening in their own head. You wake up every morning, and before the world even gets a chance to hit you, you hit yourself. You remind yourself of what you don't have, what went wrong, who left you, what didn't work last time. That kind of thinking will keep you exactly where you are. You cannot rise above the level of the words you repeat to yourself daily. For the next 7 days, you have to make a decision to stop rehearsing defeat. I'm not saying ignore reality. I'm saying stop agreeing with the negative version of it. You may be broke right now, but stop calling yourself broke. You may have failed before, but stop calling yourself a failure. Words are powerful. The Bible says life and death are in the power of the tongue, and that includes the tongue you use on yourself when nobody is listening. If you wake up saying, "This is going to be a hard day," your mind will go to work proving you right. But if you wake up and say, "Something good is going to happen for me today," your awareness shifts. You start looking for opportunity instead of excuses. People don't understand this, but your mind is a servant. It doesn't argue with commands. It obeys repetition. Whatever you tell it most, it believes. That's why some of you are confident for no reason and others are scared for no reason. You trained your mind that way. So in these 7 days, you have to retrain it. Every time a negative thought shows up, you challenge it. You don't let it sit there rent-free. You replace it with something stronger. Not something fake, but something hopeful. Instead of, I can't do this, say, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of, I'm not good enough, say, I'm getting better every day. Let me tell you something else. The world is already tough. Life is already hard. Why would you join forces with what's trying to break you? Why would you become your own enemy? You need to become your own biggest supporter. If nobody claps for you yet, clap for yourself. If nobody believes in you yet, believe anyway. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is trusting that God didn't make a mistake when He made you. When you change the way you speak to yourself, you change the way you walk, the way you sit, the way you enter rooms. People feel that. They may not know what changed, but they'll know something changed. In 7 days, if all you did was clean up your inner dialogue, people would start saying you're different. Not because your clothes changed, not because your money changed, but because your energy changed. You stopped shrinking when you walked into places. You stopped apologizing for existing. You stopped asking for permission to dream big. That's what unrecognizable really is. It's when your confidence no longer needs approval. It's when your belief no longer depends on results that haven't shown up yet. So I'm challenging you starting tonight to monitor your words. Listen to how you talk to yourself in traffic, when you make a mistake, when something doesn't go your way. That's where the real work is. Fix that, and everything else starts lining up. You don't need 7 months. You don't need 7 years. Give me 7 days of disciplined thinking, and I promise you, the person in the mirror will start looking like somebody you've been waiting to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you the real reason most people never become unrecognizable. They quit too soon. Not because it's impossible, not because they're incapable, but because they don't consist long enough for change to show up. Everybody wants a breakthrough, but very few people want the boredom that comes before it. Consistency isn't exciting. It's repetitive. It's quiet. And that's exactly why it works. Most people depend on motivation, and motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. Some days you feel unstoppable, and other days you don't feel like getting out of bed. If your progress depends on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. Consistency means you show up even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Let me say this clearly, success is built in ordinary moments. It's built on days when nothing special happens. No applause, no recognition, just you doing what needs to be done anyway. That's where most people quit, because they think if they don't see results immediately, nothing is happening. But something is always happening. Roots grow underground before anything shows above the surface. For 7 days, consistency can completely change how you see yourself. When you show up every day, even in small ways, you send yourself a powerful message. I'm not talking about obedience becomes confidence. That confidence becomes courage. And courage opens doors you were once afraid to knock on. Consistency also removes overwhelm. People quit because they try to do everything at once. That's not consistency, that's chaos. Consistency is doing the same small, meaningful actions daily. Reading 10 pages. Walking 20 minutes, practicing one skill. Making one disciplined choice. Small steps done daily will always beat big steps done occasionally. Here's something most people miss. Consistency creates identity. You don't become consistent after you succeed. You succeed because you became consistent. Once you see yourself as the type of person who doesn't quit, your behavior starts to match your identity automatically. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop looking for exits. You commit. And listen, consistency will test you. Life will interrupt you. You'll get busy. You'll have bad days. That's not a sign to stop. That's the test. Anybody can show up when life is smooth. The real transformation happens when you show up while life is messy. 7 days of consistency might not change your bank account, but it will change your mindset. It will change your discipline. It will change your standards. And once your standards change, you don't go back. You can't unlearn self-respect. Most people underestimate what 7 days of focus can do because they overestimate what 1 day of motivation can do. Motivation feels good, but it fades. Consistency feels boring, but it builds something permanent. And permanent change is what makes you unrecognizable. So if you want to become someone new, stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Pick one thing that moves your life forward and do it every day without negotiating with yourself. No matter what, that's how ordinary people create extraordinary results.